And a good Friday afternoon, everybody. This is Saul Garza with the City of Garland's Media Relations, Social Media Manager here in this neighborhood. We're talking code this afternoon because a lot of folks have questions about code enforcement. What can I do? What can I do? Why do you all pick on me? Can I turn in my neighbor? All those types of questions we are hopefully going to answer. So if you do have any questions regarding code issues, citations, warnings, all that good stuff, please chime in. And if you can't hear us this afternoon, just let me know. That will hopefully we'll try to adjust the settings here. But wasn't that nice, that little koi pond here? Good afternoon again. This afternoon I'm going to switch on over and introduce you to Lady Cardoso and Chris Harris with the City of Garland, and they're with code enforcement out here. We're going to be hopping into the truck in just a little bit and talking code. But I tell you what, this is a great little house here.
Yes.
And we're going to show you some of the things that folks are doing right and kind of drive around and point out some of the things that perhaps folks could improve upon. And let me just say that, we didn't pick this neighborhood for any reason. This was just a good central location to meet this afternoon. So, again, no reason why. We're not trying to pick on anybody, that sort of thing. But yeah, tell us real quick here, lady, what are some of the things you are seeing here in terms of what folks are doing right?
Okay, definitely. One of the things here, for example, we look at the minimum housing, making sure that all the property, there's no rotted wood, the property is painted, everything looks good in this property, there's no high grass. That's another thing that we look at. What else can we look at? No junk vehicles, inoperable vehicles. That's another thing we come and take a look at. The fence looks pretty good. There's no broken pickets, any panels that are loose. Those are some of the things we look at when we're out here and we're taking a look at properties. Basically, more of the main ones.
And Chris, how many code enforcement officers do you all have? I mean, are you across the city? Do you focus on one part of town? Because I'm sure, and no offense, but I'm sure when folks see the code enforcement truck, knocking on their door or driving the neighborhood, I don't know if you all get the welcome mat necessarily to you.
Right. Well, we have over 65,000 homes here in Garland, and we have 14 neighborhood inspectors that actually cover all those homes. So that's obviously quite a few homes for each of our inspectors to be able to cover and go through. They're each assigned areas that they are in and that they work proactively. And then, of course, they always do the complaint inspections as they come in, and they're able to look at all those. So that's pretty much how it goes.
So for those of you, do me a favor, for those of you 21 people right now so far that are tuning in, let me know that you can see us and hear us. Say hello, do a thumbs up, do something so that I can make sure that as we go on here, I can see the comments that you all are making. So please do me that favor right now and kind of say hi or hello, that kind of thing, and let me know again if you all have any questions. Right now I'm not seeing any questions. There you go, Chris, welcome. Thanks for saying hello. Amy, hello as well. So what we are going to do is we're going to hop into the vehicle and again just kind of drive around, and we're going to show you some of the do's, some of the don'ts, what some things, what some folks are doing correctly, and again, what can they improve upon. Cars, let me see, what are you asking? Enid Marquez is saying cars parked blocking other mailboxes. Is that a violation? That's a good question. Before we answer that, I'm gonna hop into the vehicle here and we're gonna start it up. Make sure we put our seat belts on, so apologize for that. But again, we wanted to show folks what exactly the code enforcement goes through every single day. I'm sure you all get a lot of complaints. Yeah, that's safe to say. So somebody was asking about that. Go ahead, let's take cars parked blocking other mailboxes. Is that a violation?
So actually that is a violation that's actually handled through the United States Postal Service. We don't actually control that because that's something that's blocking a federal employee from doing their job. So anytime you have something like that, you'd want to call your nearest post office or the Postmaster General, and they can be able to handle those types of issues.
Who do you call to get a curb fix that was broken by the bulk truck? This person's asking, let me see, who's Christina? Let me expand that a little bit. I cannot see. But yeah, Chris, what do you?
You'd want to call a streets department and start off with them. They might have you call engineering, but I would definitely start with streets.
All right, so we're driving around, and lady, just kind of show us. So here's one question. So do you all just hop in a vehicle, drive around, and look for violations, or do you all get calls and so you go out and check to see, or both?
Well, we do both. We get in our vehicles, we get a complaint, we're driving around, and we look at our area, we're inspecting our area to make sure that they're all in compliance. As we're driving, we do go ahead and receive the complaints that are coming through from e-assist or from the front office, and we go ahead and take care of those complaints. When we get back to our office, we do get voice messages, and we also go ahead and take care of those.
Which leads us to this other question. Somebody was asking Kayla here, why does code enforcement ruthlessly enforce certain houses and not others? As a reporter, I used to get calls and emails about this as well, saying, they're picking on me. It's always, my neighborhood. Is that the case? Or how do you all determine, who you give a warning, a citation to?
Okay. One of the things that we do is when we do get a complaint, we go out there and look at that property. So it all depends. It could be that someone called, a neighbor, someone that drove by went ahead and called us and let us know about a property. We go ahead and inspect that property overall and look for all the violations that property may have. We don't specifically just go and pick up a house or property and be like, okay, this is what we want to go ahead and pick on that person. We definitely don't do that. All complaints, we take it into consideration. It could be trash, it could be a tire on the side, it could be high grass, anything, we take it into consideration. Definitely, it's not unfortunately every resident we do have to deal with, they feel that way, that they get picked on, and it's not by any case in that way.
Chris, can you address that too? Because I'm sure you've heard it before. How do you all? To some it would seem that you all are always picking on me.
Right. I mean, one of the things that we try to have our inspectors do is, as she said, when they do a complaint, we try to get them to look at not just the house that has the complaint, the house on each side, the houses across the street. Generally speaking, the 9 or so houses that are right around that one complainant house. That way, we're not just hitting the one house, because what if it is a neighbor that's picking on another neighbor or something of that? So we sort of hit all around that house if we're not already doing a proactive sweep of that area.
All right. Can I park in the backyard as long as my vehicle is on gravel or concrete? Amy's asking.
If it's on a permitted improved surface, you can park on it.
Okay. What about neighbors that have high overgrown backyards? That's an interesting one, because obviously you can't go onto private property. Is that correct?
Correct.
So, my neighbor has tall grass or maybe stagnant water. They've got a pool, nasty pool. So then how do you, enforce that? There's West Nile, around. So how do you all handle that?
Okay, so one of the things that we can always do is if it's say it's a board-on-board fence where we actually cannot see through the fence, if someone knows that something like that is going on, if they can see it from their house, they can actually become a complainant, become a witness to the complaint, and they can contact us and offer us to be able to see it from, say, their backyard.
So basically, they give you the okay to go into their backyard to see across, and then can you give a citation then to that neighbor?
Yes, we could. We can always, anytime we see a violation, we can write a citation. Typically, we send out what's called a notice of violation.
Take us to that step, because people, and that's the other misconception, I guess, with code, is that boom, you go out, you see a violation, and you give them a ticket, you got to pay it up. But you all actually give a warning, if you will. Mm-hmm. And then it will explain that they have X number of days to obey, to take care of the issue. If not, that's when they get the citation. Correct.
Yes. So our inspectors, they'll go out on their proactive sweeps. They'll see whatever violations it is that they see. Then they will send through the mail that notice of violation, and it is just that. It actually says on the top, this is not a citation. And so at that point, they're given whatever the designated day is for that those violations. And then we'll do what's called a recheck of the area, and we'll move on from there. Whether it's another notice being sent out, a final notice being sent out. Obviously, it depends on what the violation is.
If neighbors do not keep up with painting their home, is this something that you all address as well?
Yes, if it's gotten to the point that it affects the weatherproofing of the home, the wood, the fascia, the siding, then yes, we would address that.
All right. And let me see. So then why are some houses can be covered in bamboo and not others? Can a house be covered in bamboo or not?
No, bamboo would not necessarily be anything that we would allow. I would suggest that person call in to our office and maybe have that address looked at.
Here's another question about cars that park on the driveway and then they stick out onto the sidewalk, and so you have to walk out into the street.
Correct.
That sort of stuff. I believe that's probably a very common thing. Is that a violation?
It is. It's sidewalk encroachment. If you see something like that going on in your neighborhood and it is not being addressed by the area inspector, please call our office, and we'll be more than happy to handle that complaint.
Let's ask a lady about broken down cars on the curb. They sit there for days and what have you. Is that something that you all can address as well?
Yes, definitely. All vehicles that are sitting out on the street, they do have to be moved at least once every 48 hours. So if they're not being moved, we definitely go ahead and tag the vehicle and go from there. If it's not moved within the 48 hours, then we go ahead and tow the vehicle.
Ed is asking, why am I required to maintain the property on the other side of the sidewalk from my property? And I'm trying to expand that question, but Ed, I'm having a problem. But anyway, that's the gist of it. Why am I required to maintain the property on the other side of the sidewalk from my property?
Okay, so
is he talking about?
I would assume he's talking
maybe?
about the easement here, like where that utility box is, or where that fire hydrant is, the mailbox. That is considered a right of way, and in the city of Garland, the owner of the property is actually responsible up into the midpoint of the street, meaning that if there's any kind of limb encroachment hanging over the street and things of that nature. And that goes, so basically the midpoint of the street all the way to the midpoint of the alley or utility easement behind the home.
And that's pretty much standard, not just the city of Garland.
Correct.
That's everywhere you go.
Standard enforcement, yes.
Yeah. Why am I, let me see. Who is responsible for all these expired paper plates, code or police?
That would be more of a police matter.
Okay. If a street is being replaced and the approach removed to your driveway and you only have access to... Okay, I'm sorry. Lynn, I don't have the rest of that question. I'm trying to hit and all I'm getting is happy faces and sad faces. So I cannot expand that question for some reason on this thing. All I can do is like it. You see there, Lynn? I liked it, but I can't expand it. But that's what they're asking. If a street is being replaced and the approach removed, who is responsible to your driveway and you only have access to it? I guess I don't know what they're asking. So I apologize.
And I'm totally guessing on this, but in a situation where if you do not have access to your front driveway or whatnot, in those situations we will allow someone to park in their back area if they have to.
Okay.
If that's the only means that they have.
Who's responsible for retaining walls?
So on the retaining walls, that is going to be part of the property manager. Property owner. So we look at those now. Once again, we look at those. Are they in imminent danger to collapse? If they're simply cracked, and if it's loose brick, we'll address that. But if they're simply cracked and things of that nature, we don't typically, look at that. Anything
that sticks out here in terms of violations that you're seeing?
Yes, actually, we're just going through some of them right now. If you see the green containers, they do have to be, there was one at the very front, they have to be pulled back the next day after 11 in the morning. So some of them are already, they haven't done that. So we understand a lot of times people are working and they haven't gotten to it, but it is something we do look at.
And let's talk about the so here in the alleys, your responsibility as well, the homeowner's responsibility as well, and how much of it?
It's half of the alley is the same way. Half of the alley is responsible. Property owner is responsible for that, and then same way the one behind it is the half of that alley is responsible for that as well.
All right. I may have missed some of you all, but who do we get? And I don't know if this is a question you all can answer. Christina was asking about a curb that needs fixing that was broken by a bulk truck. Who can they call, and is that their responsibility?
Yeah, in that situation, if you just contact the street department, speak with them, and then they can help guide you in the right direction on that.
And how can people get a hold of you all? I mean, there are different ways. There are apps. There's obviously phone, email. So there's really no, and I don't want to say excuse, but I mean, there's plenty of ways folks can get a hold of y'all.
Right. So if we have you can go. The easiest way, obviously, is you go online to the website, City of Garland website, and you can check out the code compliance page from there. You can always call our office. Get your pencils ready. It's 972-485-6400. We also have an email. It's a CODENENFC@garlandtx.gov. So yes, there's many different ways. There's e-assist. There's all kinds of ways to
right. Let's talk about fences. I'm seeing a lot of fences. So if a board or two leaning over, and how much of an angle is considered a code violation? Because I've seen some that are leaning a little bit. I mean, how do you determine if there's a violation in terms of a fence?
Okay, yeah, definitely. One of the ways we look at it is if the fence is leaning more than 10 degrees, then it's already in violation. If it's missing any fence pickets or any panels, that's also in violation. Right now, I don't see any.
You don't see any?
No, I
what
don't
about
see.
if they're not painted or they're faded? Is that a violation?
Yes, that is also a violation. I mean, we go ahead and we notify the property to let them know that it's fading in case it's going to start the wood starts getting rotted.
Mm-hmm. And Chris, are you all strict? Will you consider yourself a little lenient? You don't go out and boom, you write a ticket and that's it. I mean, you try to work with residents.
Yes, very much so. I mean, I would like to say that our inspectors are trained to err on the side of caution. We don't want to, obviously, we don't want to think anybody's doing anything on purpose. It's maybe a lack of knowing exactly what the code is and things of that nature. And so we try to do a lot of public education, go out and speak with neighborhood associations, things like that. So yeah, as much as possible, we do try to work with the residents. Now, obviously, if we have someone that's a repeat offender, then yes, we might shorten that compliance period, or not the compliance period, but the amount of leeway we give them.
Jay's asking if a citizen sees a garage sale in the wrong place or no authorized number on it, can they pull that? I guess the permit. Again, I can't see the whole comment, everybody, but yeah, they're asking about a garage sale permit.
Yeah, I think it sounds like maybe he's talking about a garage sale sign. So if there is a garage sale sign that is in the right of way. It is not actually supposed to be in the right of way. It'd be easier for me to tell you. It's only supposed to be a garage sale sign. It's supposed to have the address, the phone number, and the permit number on it, and it should only be located on private property. Basically, one is at the house where the garage sale is being taken place at, and any other private property that has given authorization for that sign.
Now, here's a question that I used to see a lot and hear a lot: sidewalks. Who's responsible to fix the sidewalk? A lot of people think it's the city, but it's not necessarily.
Correct. So in the city of Garland, there's a 50-50 program that a lot of times, if there is a sidewalk that you believe needs to be repaired, but the city has not deemed it as one of the ones that's in their list to be repaired right now, you can enter into a 50-50 program with the city of Garland, and where they would take care of 50% of the cost and you take care of the other. They have engineers that go out, look at the streets, look at the sidewalks, determine which ones need to be replaced, and then of course, depending on how bad they are, they'll put them in a list of importance of what needs to be done.
And how do you determine if it's a sidewalk that warrants a citation, if you will. When do you issue a citation for a bad sidewalk?
Anytime the sidewalk becomes an obvious trip hazard, more than 4 inches, and if there's more than a 4-inch trip hazard on it, we can write it up for notice.
Kimberly's asking, why do you allow people to have car parts all over their yard? Can people have car parts all over your yard?
No, they cannot have car parts all over their yard. That is considered improper storage. So if it is seen, if you see any violation like that, I ask to go ahead and call the office, and we'll go out there and inspect it, and if it is, we'll go ahead and open a case.
And how quickly do y'all get out there? So let's say I call this afternoon, say my neighbor has tall grass. How soon will you be able to get out there?
Usually as soon as we get the complaint, we try to get out there as soon as possible. There are times we get out there within like 15-30 minutes. It depends. It could be an hour, 2 hours. Within that time, we try to get out there as soon as we can.
Typically the same day?
Yes.
Oh, okay. That's good to know.
I'd say, just so you know, on average, across the department and all 3 divisions, we run maybe a little over 1 business day on our response times.
That's a good. All right. Thanks everybody for again tuning in. If you have other questions, let us know. Again, we're just driving around. No particular reason why this neighborhood. We just kind of picked it, and we're driving around, showing you some of the stuff that our folks are doing right. And they maybe perhaps they didn't know that they were doing wrong. I mean, I don't know a lot of people who might know every single code in the books, and that's why you all are there to kind of help out and kind of remind them. And so if you guys have any additional questions, let us know. We're going to drive around for another 5-10 minutes or so before we call it quits here on this Facebook Live for this Friday afternoon. But we do appreciate you taking time out of your lunch to tune in. And asking, what about people that are unable to have to pay someone to cut something, I guess, cut limbs if they have overhanging limbs or that sort of stuff. Trees is what she's asking. Yeah, if they're unable to pay someone to cut those trees, you all.
We have something that's called Code Cares, and there's a couple different ways we can go about it. If it's something simply that's a limb and you have no means to be able to monetarily afford to have that done, sometimes the inspectors, if they can easily get to it and it doesn't cause any kind of harm, hazard, they can take care of it. Otherwise, you can contact our department and let them know that you don't have the means to take care of it, and we can see if you would qualify for our Code Cares program.
And some of the things people may not know, because obviously they hear the negative about code, but you all do a lot of stuff kind of behind the scenes and perhaps things that folks didn't know that you all did,
right?
Like what?
We a lot of times we go out to block parties and we'll speak with everybody. Sometimes we just go and we hang out with the neighbors and stuff at the block parties. A lot of the employees, they go on their own time afterwards if they've been invited. We go to neighborhood association meetings and we're there to talk with whoever we need to talk with. We do a lot of Code Cares activities where we actually there's typically a day or two out of the year where we'll actually get together and work as a group to go find properties that need assistance taking care of something.
But y'all also help out folks, perhaps the elderly. I know you all do shopping carts that you find all over the place. Signs on utility poles.
Correct. Bandit signs that on utility poles. We pick up grocery carts. We have a senior lawn care assistance program that we run. We run, and you can that opens up in the spring. You can get put on, and that you can try to get on the list for that. We're always looking for new and better ways to be able to serve our community.
All right, let me get back here. What about people park their big trucks in their front yard, trailers, motorcycles? What are the codes in relation to that?
They can actually go ahead and they can have their trailer on their driveway as long as they're not blocking the sidewalk. There's no items on the trailer. It's unloaded. There cannot be no trailers on the street, no oversized vehicles on the street. And they can park as long as it's a, approved surface.
All right. Let me see. Why do code enforcement officials get on top of trucks to look over fences? Can you do that, first of all?
Yes. So
Okay.
we've been told by the city attorney office that we have as long as we're doing that from a public easement, the alleyway, the street, we have the right to do that. Typically, we're only going to do that in situations where there's a complaint that something's going on in the backyard that we can't see through the fence slats and things of that nature. So instead, in those situations, no one wants to be a witness to the complaint, so we have to see what we can see. As long as we're in the back of the truck from a public easement, we have that right.
All right. Corey's asking about the trash cans left out days after trash collection. Lady addressed that a little while ago. I mean, they're supposed to bring them back in by 11 o'clock the next day, 11 a.m. the next day. If not, yes, you can call
Yes.
and yes. And,
Yes,
and code will go out there and you know, if you got to remind your neighbor do so as well. Is there a volunteer program to help the elderly?
Yes, there is. If you contact our office and ask to speak with Oswaldo Rodriguez, he is actually the manager that heads up the Code Cares program. We are always in desperate need of volunteers that can help out the citizens of Garland. So he takes responsibility of trying to find those that can supply the need to those that have the need.
If code wasn't around, if you all did not give citations and what have you, what do you think the city would look like?
If you ask me, honestly, don't think the city would look as good as it's looking right now. It's one of the reasons why we do this is to make sure that the city, stays looking good. We want people to come and visit, and we want people to, for us to City of Garland be part of them being interested in our city.
And everybody has to do their part, obviously.
In order for us to look good.
Yeah, and
it's all a team.
Somebody asked earlier, now do you all have to meet a quota in terms of, I got to write X number of tickets every single day, or I'm out of a job, or I won't get paid, or
No.
I'll earn extra if I write more tickets?
No, nothing like that. Believe me, it's me as an inspector. I prefer to just work with the people, guide them in any way that we can to help them make sure that they comply. The last resort we want is citations. That's not what we want. We want to go ahead and help and guide in any way that we can residents. And like I said, citation is the last resort.
Let's look at this fence here. We could.
This fence is actually under. We have addressed it, and we are working on that one.
You're working with the
Yes.
homeowners there,
Mhm.
okay. Because of the condition, it's leaning over? Or
Yes,
what?
it's leaning. Panels are loose. It's obviously in violation.
Do you recommend people kind of go and talk to their neighbor and say, "Hey, your grass is too high," or would you rather have folks, call you all first?
I guess it all depends how comfortable they feel. If they feel comfortable with their neighbors, to go ahead and let them know, hey, your grass is. If they know the city ordinance, especially as well, that's another thing. Sometimes their neighbors may not know it, and that's when you want to help them. So it's all as how comfortable you feel. If not, like I said, we're here, and can always call us, and there's many different ways.
There's a couple more questions. It's already 1 o'clock, and we appreciate everybody tuning in. But let's get these questions answered before we sign off here. Linda's asking, I thought the trash can pullback only applied to the front entry drives.
Yes,
that is okay.
That's why I said the one at the very front. There was one at the front that I saw that's
Okay.
after 11 is
Like
definitely.
these that we're passing by?
Yes.
Okay, so they have to be back. So if
see
you have
this
an
one right
alley...
here?
Oop, let's
see
turn
that
around.
one right there?
There was one there.
Mhm.
Okay.
That one is obviously it.
But if you have an alley,
No,
trash cans, you're good.
The alley, we do ask to go ahead and pull your trash can back towards your property, but technically we don't really address those. Only the ones at the front.
All right, and last question here is what about cars that belong to one household but vehicles parked in front of other people's property? Now that's a big, good question, because a lot of people have this misconception that, only I can park in front of my house. Chris?
So in the city of Garland, a public street is just that. It's a public street. So we do not dictate who parks where on a public street. There are things, how long they're parked, if the vehicle is operable, inoperable, those types of things. But we do not regulate nor enforce if the vehicle is parked in front of a certain house.
All right, we appreciate that. And everybody, thanks for tuning in this afternoon here with Lady and Chris. Hopefully we got to answer some of you all's questions this afternoon. And if you have any more questions, feel free to continue the conversation here. We'll monitor it and address them. Or if you all need to get a hold of the Code Enforcement Department, there are many ways to do so. Use the app. That works really well. Before we leave you, is there a code about leaves that have fallen from trees? We're coming into fall, so that's going to be a big question.
Yeah.
So you have to rake them? Can you leave them?
No. Yeah, you can just leave them on.
You can leave them. Okay, so there you go, Amanda. So we're coming up to fall, so you can just leave them out there. But we appreciate everybody again for tuning in. We'll be back next Friday with another Facebook Live. But we appreciate everybody.